Tere õhtust. Good evening. My name is Sten Saluver. Some people know me. I'm the founder and CEO of Storytek. And welcome to the meetup with a dear friend, video and content strategist, Uri Levanon, who is based in Stockholm and Tel Aviv quite often, right? And Uri's been, I think, has quite unique experience because he's worked quite a lot with Israeli and other startups, but he also consults corporations on their content and digital strategy, including like Red Bull, Haste Media, Bertelsmann, etc. And since Storytek is about tech and content, then Uri will talk today a little bit about the Trifeca model and how do you build communities through content, and then we'll do a Q&A also on startups, Israel, and investors, and etc. So yeah, welcome.
So yeah, thank you very much. Really nice coming here. First time in the country. It's really cool. So yeah, I'll just jump straight to it so we can use the time. Ideally, we'll go over this and then discuss whatever we want to discuss. Ask me anything, and a couple of ideas I wanted to share with you, and just try to make it as a fruitful session. So this thing about the Trifecta is something I felt we can share because this is, let's call it a business model or a product model that is very much related to content and is one of those areas where you can really create disruption. So that's why I got really interested in it when I started to learn about it a couple of, I don't know, 6 years ago. And we're going to look a little bit inside. We're going to look how it was kind of started around the home renovation area, how it got into other verticals like fashion, tattoos, Martha Stewart, nerd and hobby communities, and try to look what could be next opportunities, and of course share ideas and just have a whatever discussion we can have about it. So maybe you know about who Mary Meeker is. Obviously, if you read all the trades, you know who she is. She's no, I think she's not with Kleiner Perkins anymore, but she used to be with KPCB, one of these legendary Silicon Valley funds, and every year she would publish her famous Mary Meeker State of the Internet. And in 2014, when she published it, she kind of named this model of Trifecta, and she said that companies that manage to bring those 3 C's together, content, community, and commerce, are essentially, when it works, it creates a very, very strong product offering that is just able to take over potential any area. And the poster boy was a company called House, which you might have heard. I'm pretty sure they have an Estonian version. This is a company started by 2 Israelis, a couple in the Silicon Valley. And I think they're worth more than 4 billion. This presentation is from 2016, but I updated it a little bit. And if you go to House right now, it looks like, the ultimate destination for home renovation, right? It has basically 3 main areas. You have photos, inspiration, you have content in stories and advice, and then you have the marketplace for either professionals, contractors, service providers, or the products themselves. But it didn't start like this. It really started as a mood board for renovating your home, your house. And they say, the couple that founded it, that they really wanted to, they needed to do it in their house, and they were looking for a better experience than just going and with a pack of magazines and looking at them. And today, in the age of Pinterest, it looks like very evident for all of you. But back then, there wasn't Pinterest. So they started to create a very simple tool as a mood board and share inspiration with their friends, and they've seen that it really, really works, and people are happy to add content to it. And so very specific use case consumer product. But then they saw around that people are not just interested in the inspiration, they're also interested in advice, because there's a lot of questions you need to ask when you're doing home renovation. So they just added forums, which was the simplest way to create a community and share more content. And then naturally they saw that pros, as you see here, which are service providers, are very happy to jump into these forums and offer their advice. in a very kind of short knowledge sharing. And that brought them to the next part, that they created this marketplace for experts, for professionals, and allowed them also to open their profiles, and then also to have like a premium service when they get even further services. And then after that, they started to create more content and really expanded it, and then went with stories and whatever else is interesting for you to keep you in the site when you really want to kind of think about home renovation. So that's basically expanding to a magazine. And this is obviously the marketplace for contractors, which again grew very much organically, but with some very smart, I would say, growth tactics that served very well on the SEO as well. And if we look in the traction in 2016, it was nicely steady, 25 million. Now the internet is shrinking gradually because everybody's on social media. So in 2019, it's a bit lower, but it's kind of a steady. This is from SimilarWeb, right? I guess you know this tool. It's kind of still a steady, nice traction. And as you can see, 50% is, 90% is organic and 50% is still search. And it's very evident when you look at it because the photos appear highly on search results for home renovation. The content appears highly on any kind of advice. They just managed to find the most relevant content that people who want to get this task done would look for. And then all the other elements of SEO, which some of you might know, how much time people spend on the site, all the indicators that eventually affect the ranking work on your favor when the experience is really great. And then you are really able to capture the market for home renovation because people stay on the site and then actually they go and buy the products. And if we look at the business model, on the left side, there's contextual advertising, which is the least relevant, but it is still relevant because you do know that you have people at certain ages that want to now renovate their home. It's really nice targeting for some kind of businesses. The service marketplace, which you can contact service providers, so it's lead generation, but also they had like a premium product, as you can see, Pro and Pro Plus, that if you pay, I think, $10 a month, you get all these kind of nice features. And the product marketplace, which is right now became, I think, their main thing. So House managed to become the destination site for also, home and interior designs and everything. They're not the only one, but they're definitely the leading one. And if you ask yourself, where is IKEA, where is H&M, where is all the other retail brands that should have done it? Well, they didn't do it. And that's how you take over, by kind of going from the real content and community. So why is it working? Because if you do manage to bring these two things together, you have a very, very good path for organic growth. There's native engagement because people are really engaged with the content, and there's high retention. All of those things also translate in Google Analytics and then translate in Google scoring, in case you've involved in this kind of thing of building a website. And then you have authentic experience, great lead generation, amazing SEO, and also building a very strong brand. So you're becoming the brand. And that's how you disrupt. So that looks like a great use case. And the question is this going to work in other areas? Can you duplicate this? And the answer is that it doesn't work all the time, but it can work. So, there is no silver bullet in general in startups and in web, especially consumer web. But there are some principles. That's what we're going to talk. So back in 2016, I tried to create the landscape. Some of these startups aren't alive anymore. New startups or new services have appeared. But what I wanted to show you is like that different services start in different areas. So some are starting strict from the community. I think Stack Exchange is one of the best examples ever that I've seen for community. I guess you know it, right? Every developer knows Stack Exchange. Some started straight from content, and some started from marketplace and added those things there. So you can start from different direction as long as you really kind of find a way to tie the three things together. And you don't have to start with content and community, but if you start there and you really figure it out, it gives you good advantage because to build a marketplace is relatively a commodity. But to build great content and community experience is not trivial. The Polyvore was a fashion site that shut down already, that really managed to create for a while a nice community of people basically creating mood boards and collections, which then translated to very nice traffic out to all the e-commerce in fashion, which earned very nice lead generation commissions for Polyvore. So they were just earning nice money from just providing all this lead generation of very highly engaged fashion customers. But eventually, from all kind of reasons, and especially by not developing the product, but also other things that I'll show you, it didn't really last. So that's where, you know, sometimes the party has to end from all kind of reasons. The main reason the party has ended is this, because especially Pinterest just managed to take over this entire thing. And the reason, when you think about it, is very obvious, because fashion is still such a mainstream thing, and Pinterest eventually offered a much better product that served much bigger fashion audience. So Polyvore was a little bit more fashionista thing, but before Pinterest was taking over, it was also the place where fashion-minded people went. But then when Pinterest was so prevalent, then everybody just came to Pinterest. And actually also Instagram managed to become a favorite place for people to convey whatever they think about fashion with the features they introduce. So, you know, it's kind of goes without saying that if you don't improve or if you're not kind of moving with the experiences that people want, somebody else is gonna eat your lunch. But again, competing in fashion is difficult enough, and for Polyvore, I can say, I mean, they really try to make it work. Another interesting area happened in the tattoo, the interesting tattoo market, where the two Scandinavian nations that like to hate each other for all kind of reasons, maybe you know a bit about that, are kind of competing. So you have obviously a lot of tattoo here, but I don't know if you knew how big the tattoo market eventually became, especially through the millennial, when millennials kind of became the main segment, but almost everybody we know kind of has a tattoo. So it just became a mainstream thing, right? When I was a kid, tattoo was like, I don't know, punk bands, but now everybody has a tattoo. But the thing is that it stayed very much a mom and pop's business, right? You go to the tattoo studio and you sit there and you drink coffee and you talk about whatever, and it didn't really become digital, which gives the kind of impression that it's ripe for digital disruption. Somebody has to build a marketplace. And that's apparently what these two guys tried to do. So Inkbay actually came later, and because it's Swedish, they started directly with the marketplace. And as you can see, I mean, you can find designs and you're supposed to be able to book them where, oh, I don't show the book. Well, you can go to the designer, the tattooist page, and then you can book. Now, the thing is that you can't really sell a tattoo online. What you sell is the meeting in the tattoo studio, because it's like barber. It's a very personal thing. And that's one of the reasons the marketplace still hasn't happened in tattoo, even though it's such a big trend and the content is great and everything is happening. This is Tattoo-Do. Tattoo-Do started with content and community. This is like Pinterest for tattoo, right? And they created really great content, and they even created video content, and they have a founder who's like this amazing tattooist that works with Messi and all these guys. So they were just having a lot of traffic on social media and everything else, but just getting the marketplace hasn't happened in big numbers yet. So they do have, and of course they have an app community. They do have, map and find services, and you can see that there's booking, and I think it's growing. But apparently the tattoo experience still somehow stays something, I guess, that people really very much prefer, I guess, the physical thing, and that's interesting. It doesn't mean that it can't eventually get disrupted. So sometimes apparently you need to wait longer than you think, even if it looks like, man, this is like what young people do. This should get completely digital. But apparently reality is sometimes different. But I do think that whoever of them will continue, and it looks like Tattoo-Do is probably better doing, can eventually take over this market. So the opportunity is still there. One of the most amazing Swedish startups that some of you are using is FishBrain. Anybody here is a fisherman, angler? So that started as Facebook for anglers, basically allowing you to share, because apparently people who like to fish, the second thing they want to do after is share the picture with the fish, right? And what better to share it with people like you that are going to give you all the relevant dopamine that you need to get. So that's like the thing. But then they added obviously the data part, which is, we'll look at it, is very interesting, like how to find, because I know where you fish this fish, so I know where to find places to fish. And I don't know if you know that fishing is the biggest hobby market in the world. 48 billion spend. This is 3 times the music industry. So music and video and media is nice, but this hobby is so fucking big, and it didn't get any digital proper hub. And that's why FishBrain managed to kind of become a company and then raised very nice money from really nice investors to try and take it. And now, obviously, because Facebook became Instagram, or people moved from Facebook to Instagram, they also became a little bit like Instagram. Actually, completely like Instagram. Look, this is the interface now. It's like, it's a complete copy. But that's a good thing to do, because this is what ideally, I guess, helps them keep the people in FishBrain and you know, give them the same kind of level of experience that they're used to, even stories and stuff like this. But then, and this is like the unique aspect they're bringing in the Trifecta, that's the tool. So now that you know where people are fishing, you can build around that interesting data, which shows you the areas that people are fishing. They have like a metric called bite time, which are the hours. And then, of course, the freemium model comes, because if you want access to the data, like if you're really serious about it, you're going to pay. And that's the business model here. So by really becoming the best tool for this hobby, which is indeed a big enough market, you are able to take over. And now you ask yourself, where is the real commerce? So this is their shop in 2016, right? That's what I showed when I showed it there. And apparently what they're trying to disrupt, they're trying to disrupt all this kind of fishing e-commerce, which look like this, and whatever other fishing services. And this is the shop they have now. So they made nice or considerable progress in the 3 years to really become also the e-commerce destination. And while they don't have maybe tens of millions of users, well, maybe they have more than 10 million, but I don't know how many paid, they definitely have very dedicated users. So I would really love to know what's their GMV. I don't know. Maybe I can try to ask this guy when I meet him next time. But if they continue to build it very well, it's not just the current fishers, it's the next generation, right? It's all the young people that are going to get into this hobby that will start with FishBrain. So that's a really, really cool model. And that brings the question, what more hobbies are open for disruption? And I don't know, you don't have legal cannabis here, right? You're not going to have. In Israel, we're not fully legal, but it's very, very. We have the best. We had Telegram. I don't know, Telegrass. You heard about Telegrass? $1 billion cannabis e-commerce on Telegram. Israel invented it, and this
I think we need to talk about Telegrass. Definitely.
Man, Telegrass is one of the best things I've seen. He's in jail. He's going to for a long time, but. It's a long discussion. Anyway, the question is, can you build this thing in the cannabis, which is an emerging market? And now let's talk seriously. I mean, this is only going to grow. So Snoop Dogg, in case you are aware in the content world, has kind of very early seized on this with his website called Mary Jane. I hope you understand the pun. And that is pretty much started as content site because Snoop Dogg is an amazing content creator. And then obviously they have the simple, I would say, search. Now, this is my interpretation, because this business is run by ganja people that actually smoke all day. I don't think they have enough attention to really put the e-commerce product where it should be, because I can think how this can be done so much fucking better that it can be a little bit more like House did it. But that's because these people are really much more focused about content and all the lifestyle. But the nice tool they created is the app called Shesh, where people can share their experiences and whatever they're making, because in cannabis you have so many different species and the mixes and stuff like this. So there is like a level of how your experience looks like. And again, this product isn't managed like a proper consumer product, again, because how this company is built. But at least you see that they're trying to make this kind of efforts. And it will be interesting to see if this goes and becomes big. And then again, obviously, when we talk about hobbies, where is the biggest of them all hobby, right? DIY. And maybe this Instructables, anybody who was in when Web 2.0 started, is like one of the first Web 2.0 websites. And in terms of content and community, one of the best sites. But apparently the commerce was never the part that we're interested in. And this also comes that when you want to build a trifecta, you have to look at how eventually you will end up in the commerce or marketplace. And this was just a fan website. But fortunately for him, Autodesk, who wants to become the company for everything you create, right, especially 3D, managed to buy it and kind of, this is like one of their content, this is like their content hub and experience. So he didn't really, there wasn't really a commerce element, but at least it was good enough that one of the service providers in this area took it. And to look a little bit more in DIY for kids, I don't know if you know DIY.org. This is like a website that started by one of the best ever designers, like the ex-designer of Vimeo, a New Yorker. He tried for a long time to figure out the model, and eventually he landed on courses for kids in video. So the content is also the commerce, but there is a community here with parents. And just a little bit more about where this type of hobby for this segment of people, which is kids, with this segment of consumers, does have a much better, let's call it, commerce product that Instructables didn't have. And it's actually a very nice service, and I'm intending to use it when the right time. So what does it mean in terms of hobbies? You need a big enough market. You need real demand, okay? So people actually willing to spend money. If it's emotional, it really, really helps, because that's very much part of what stands behind content and community. Content needs to be happening, like there is a way to create content. And if you can introduce any data or community tool, that's a very big advantage. That's going to generate retention. That's going to generate potential freemium model. That's going to generate some data play maybe later with AI and predictive models. That's going to generate the moat, which is very important when you're in this area. And the last category is the new Martha Stewarts, which is the one that I find the less interesting, but it is a very important one. And this website by Gwyneth Paltrow Group, which is now very infamous for all the bullshit they have done over the last years, but back in 2016, it was still okay and kosher. And another one called Brit & Co. I don't know if you know Brit Morin. She's the wife of Dave Morin, one of Facebook's early employees. So the thing is, Martha Stewart, everybody knows who's Martha Stewart, right? Is this priest of, I will tell you how to organize your life. I will tell you how to choose products. I will tell you. It's a little bit maybe like Oprah. So the thing is that these new entrants basically are able to build around their personal brand and a shopping experience that for some people is really favorable, because they get the personal touch. And that's what Martha Stewart really invented in her completely by her own. And she's like the real inventor. So it's law-friendly guru, there's authentic voice, there's newsletter, there's lots of content, there's all kind of brands, there's a private brands, but everything is around your face and whatever you represent. And if people like you, they like you. If they hate you, they hate you. And that's the play. Which brings the questions, are there any guys that can build something for guys? And I don't know. Apparently this is mostly with women. But when I try to think about it, like, if there's anyone who could be like a Martha Stewart in a way, it has to be somebody very authentic. And this guy has a very good brand behind himself, but he's too much of a douchebag, me, that he loses on the authenticity, although he's just, he has publicity in big levels. So you can't be too much of a big ego. You need to have real authenticity. So I don't know if Zlatan or Eric Cantona, but the one guy that when I talked with all kind of people and investors, the one name that came all the time was this guy who has too much money from Nike and other endorsement, and maybe he's not interested to do it. But I think for a lot of people, he could be potentially one of those. And maybe people like him because it's elegance, because it's like, right, the man I want to be and whatever else. But to create content, you really need to work on this, and that's what Gwyneth and Britt Morin, they know how to do it, and you have to give them this advantage or this credit. They do create content. You have to really want to create content to do this. These are guys that all created their personal brands. In case you know, all these celebs with liquor, a lot of big successes. George Clooney sold his tequila for $1 billion, apparently. But you can't be a one product guy. You really need to create content all the time. So it's not ambassadorship. It's like you need to work in this thing. So I guess it's still waiting for the relevant man to do it, if there's one. So when we summarize, like, what can we understand about the playbook? So the content has to serve inspiration, discovery, information, valuable information, has to be eye candy. It can be just a blog. It needs to have some bigger or different types of formats. Of course, you start with one, but ideally it can expand. The community is really where you are hitting deep with the shovel in the ground, because people really have discussions, they seek advice, they really want to connect with other people, they want feedback, they really kind of want to achieve the task they came for. And those two create what we call retention, right? Why people come to the website all the time, because they want to consume the content, they want to talk to other people. And then the commerce part, I felt that it makes sense to split it to two areas where you have non-commodity, like renovating your house, and then you can't go back, right? Or making tattoo or making plastic surgery, right? There is no way back, you know? You do it, you need to know what you're doing. So then I guess the advice and the level that you can get from the content, the community has relevant value. And then when it's commodity like fashion and other things, which you do face competition from others, you need to really drive with very strong voice, guidance, brand, authority. So basically, I'm getting addicted to get you, the brand perspective on what I want to buy. And that's a little bit difficult thing, and that's why in fashion, the personal brand, like we've seen before with Brit and Gwyneth, can work, or if you maybe create a group or something like this. And comes the question, okay, what more? I mean, and here is definitely open for your imagination, but this is just a couple of things I don't know, came to my mind. Maybe in-store design, I don't know if there's a big need here. It is a task, you're spending money, you want to get inspiration, you are going to agencies and contractors to do it for you. Maybe somebody can do it for small shops and businesses, I don't know. Ethnic wear, I'm not a fashion guy, but maybe, you come to Estonia, you want to buy Estonian clothes. You go to Sweden, you want to buy Swedish clothes. You go to Scotland, you want to buy Scottish kilt. Maybe a marketplace just to sell this kind of national clothes. I didn't find it anywhere. When you search for ethnic wear, you get Indian, all these Indian kind of things. But how can you buy the traditional, endemic, indigenous fashion of every country in the world? Only in the airport right now, from what I know. Yeah, whatever. Music instruments, interesting. I used to be a guitarist in the past. Now I'm a very good air guitarist. But this is the content and marketplace. This is the current web content marketplace area for music. It feels very much 90s, not to say early 2000. Can somebody figure out some sort of tool? I don't know, maybe you collect your rig, maybe you can hear the sound of the instrument, maybe in guitars and preamps and all of those things. Something that everybody that wants to buy music instrument will start on. And again, music instruments is very much you want to go to the shop and try it there. But there must be, like I feel there could be a better experience, but somebody has to think about it. And naturally, you have to be very much involved in this culture and love music and understand really what makes other people interested. But to me, it feels like this is an area that is still waiting for this kind of tool. Sustainable living, this is like one of these emerging trends that is not a big market right now, but that if you capture it right now, it could be interesting. And that brings us to a market that was emerging back in 2016 and now is fucking exploding on every corner of the planet, vegan. So this is like a guy in Israel started Billions Vegans, shop, media, community. I don't know how it's going to go. Maybe he's able to build Amazon for vegan. Gardening. How many people here have a friend or a relative that is into gardening? I think this is the second biggest hobby, if not even bigger than fishing. I just don't know the numbers. Can someone please build the fish brain for gardening? I'd really try to find. Maybe I didn't search enough. To me, it feels the exact same level like fish brain. But you need to know this area very well yourself to really find what's needed. Vacation travel. This is the spreadsheets I make when I plan a vacation. Maybe I'm OCD, maybe I'm a weirdo. I just cannot perceive myself going to Mallorca without really doing this thing. And then I'm also evaluating whatever activities I'm going to do. And eventually I have what I consider the best ever fucking vacation planning. And I'm sharing it with all my friends. Look at my spreadsheet. It makes me think maybe the average person that doesn't have the patience, this takes like a week, doesn't have the patience to do this. And I don't know, but when you try to book vacation with your kids, this is like $3,000 to $5,000. Like it is a real spend. Like you see, I mean, this is like SEK, Swedish krona numbers. You really want to feel that you're like picking the right thing, but the way TuiFly and all of these vacation sites are built is just to confuse you. Maybe there's no real need here. Maybe somebody can build a tool that is just helping you. I know Google is trying to develop something. I don't know exactly what they're going to put out. Travel is a huge market. There's all kind of margins there. There's a lot of shit experiences there. Booking.com, all these websites basically built to screw you. Maybe there's opportunity. I don't know. If you want the spreadsheets, I'm happy to share with you. If you go to Mallorca, I know everything. New luxury. Stocks, this is like a new marketplace for used sneakers, but all these special sneakers and all these whatever cool streetwear. Maybe you're into it, but now they have Louis Vuitton and all these other things. So this started as a marketplace. There is no content yet. I'm betting the content is going to enter here because they're taking this new luxury thing. So right now, I think they still have enough traffic for the marketplace, but I know that they're planning content because I see that they're sponsoring esports teams and stuff like this, that they really want to get, to the young generation. Maybe tabletop games. I don't know if you're into it. It's a huge nerd subculture, and it's going to stay, and it's card games. It's just games that you play with people that you see. Nothing. And all kind of other things that existing e-commerce experiences that somebody can just make in a better way if they just envision it. So that's pretty much it. And yeah, maybe you can do something with collections, I don't know, but that's the model. And I hope this was useful for you, I don't know, as inspiration or whatever, but if there is an area that you're very passionate about and you think something can be done better, you can look at this as inspiration, maybe think if there's something here that you can use or imply or do anything. So yeah. That's the trifecta. Feel free to ask questions.
Thank you. Questions? Does anybody have a question? It's it's a running joke. You're in Sweden, so when Estonians and Finns are excited, then how do you recognize an excited Estonian? I'm excited. Yeah, so they're like super excited, I see.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. Yeah.
I have a few questions. So, you were also working quite a lot as a content strategist. So, that kind of space is evolving like super rapidly. So, kind of like, what's your sort of like a 10-item bucket list like for great content in 2019? What great content means to you? What it needs to have?
That's a very good question that is asked. I can tell you every year in the WPPN conference, there's a discussion, what is great content? And it's interesting what BuzzFeed say, what agencies says. There is my personal feel, and that's what I assume is the market wants. It definitely feels like the vertical short form video is becoming the kind of winning format, thanks to the stories and now whatever TikTok managed to do, which is going much deeper than the lip syncing. It's just basically now a whole self-expression. I would say that video that you shoot with the camera, that you are able to add all these overlays, started with emoji, then some effects, but I assume can include maybe other things later on, is the kind of storytelling format that especially young people are used to. So that's definitely an area which is kind of, that's the language that you can reach, especially young people, very well now. You can reach them if you're publishing, you can reach them if you're advertising and other things. Unfortunately, text on website is still very valuable, but it's becoming harder and harder to consume, even if we're all believing in the advancement of the human race, which I'm not sure, but less and less people are actually able to do the long form text, which is usually great content. And you see Medium trying to solve it or try to solve it. You see all kind of ways around it. So I believe that the content that is providing great value. So to answer a question in terms of like what's the structure, right? What are the characteristics? Content that provides great value within ideally the first 10 minutes of exposure you have, video, article, anything. It's the first 10 seconds, sorry, and sometimes less, that I need to feel that there's great value. That's the question. How do you do it in video? How do you do it in text? How do you do it in whatever other things? I don't think that a lot of the text articles today are able to do it. It doesn't mean that you cannot rethink it. And then I would say that it is easier and more snackable to consume. As much as I would like to, the human race to be able to do long reads, this is really what more people can handle, or really, kind of get engaged with. Let's be more practical. I do see a lot of the trades in advertising, in, I don't know, tech news. Basically, if they would move from news articles to these kind of things, I think for a lot of people that wouldn't change much. They would actually like to read it more. So that's kind of, great content. It doesn't mean that people are not reading text. It doesn't mean that there is no relevancy for text if it's deep content. But more than ever, you have to really understand how to create this kind of sequence that to keep people. And I guess there is some sort of practices in long text, mostly done in content marketing in all kind of ways. So that's my opinion. I mean, I guess if you test things, that's how you know better. So maybe there's other ideas that I didn't think about that if you test can work.
There's a couple of things I wanted to touch more. We were talking about content, and I think there is basically live streaming is something that you've been kind of engaged quite a lot recently. So tell me a little bit about like stream elements and the whole business. What's emerging there?
Yeah, who's watching Twitch here? For real? No one? Who has a younger brother that watches Twitch or a kid? Okay.
Okay, we're already pensioners.
Yes. The thing is that live streaming, when it started with Justin TV and Ustream back in the days, if you remember these websites, was about the thing that ideally is going to be the new TV. But what really became the use case was the gaming thing. And Justin TV, the website that was live streaming, became Twitch. And the interesting thing that happens right now in Twitch is that Generation Z, and even the younger one, that's their new live TV. That's where they start their experience of watching long hours of live TV. They're not watching the real TV. They're watching Twitch channels. And what do they watch? They watch other people play games. And you ask yourself, who the fuck wants to watch other people play games? But the interesting thing that I discovered is that the experience of the Twitch created is so much more than a live show. It is almost like IRC, if you remember IRC, the forums, with video, and it manages to create the hangout experience, the feeling that you're sitting on a bar table with other people and hanging out. And generally, in content, in consumer, this is and will always be what attracts people. If you are able to create the hangout experience in whatever means, people will come, because that's what humans want to be. You know, that's when we want to spend our time, like with friends around the bar, having jokes and, I don't know, doing stuff.
My son was just asking me 2 days ago, was like, who's your favorite Twitch streamer? And I'm like,
Of course, Soda Poppin. This guy, you know, a lot of young men are going to have their education from Soda Poppin, which is interesting. But I mean, this is the Oprah Winfrey. You know, when you watch this kind of people, the level of influence, engagement, and excitement they have, it's like Oprah Winfrey. So they are rightfully monetizing this kind of reach in numbers that sometimes will surprise you, but ideally are a little bit like TV. Now, the interesting thing that happens when I worked with Stream Elements, which is providing them with the software tools, with the platform to run their stream. So they're like a studio platform for them, is the interesting business model that happens. So to be a good streamer, you really need to be a good content creator. You need to know how to play your game. You don't have to play a game. You can do DIY. You can talk about stuff. You can do talk show. You can play the drums. There's really interesting stuff. But you need to hold people for more than 5 hours by being yourself. You can't edit the video. You can't do effects. It's not, hey, what's up? How are you doing? Cut. No, you're going live. If you're not interesting, people are not going to stay.
yeah, so it's like a 5-hour live sitcom.
Yes. The level of authenticity and connection with the community has to be at the highest. And that's what creates the strong retention. Because if you are watching one of these streamers, you see how much efforts they're putting. You see how they care about everybody. Of course you want to come back. That created the amazing thing that happened on Twitch, that finally somebody found a pay per content model in the digital world, that people will pay and are paying very good money to be a subscriber to a Twitch channel and to donate money to a Twitch streamer continuously. And I can try to switch to another deck, but maybe later or somewhere else. But just to give you some numbers, the average subscription on Twitch is $5. Half goes to Twitch, half goes to the streamer. So if you are a good streamer and you manage to get, let's say, 1,000 subscribers, it's not bad. It's $2,000 a month for sitting in front of a computer playing some fucking game. If you are continuing, and you have a Finnish guy, I mean, small ones that are able to do it. If you're getting a little bit better and you go above that, you can calculate the money. You don't need to have a lot of followers. You don't need to you just need to hit this point where enough people really want to watch your show. So the amazing thing that happened there is that finally, in this video world, the pay for content model actually happened in the area that most people wouldn't imagine it would happen, in this gamer subculture. But why? Because the human thing works. And that's the interesting thing. Because if you can create the hangout, you are really delivering the highest value in terms of social, you know, in what human want. And then you have Twitch streamers that have more than 10,000 subscribers. Ninja at one point had something like 100,000 or something like this. That went very much down. Shroud, Shroud has 100,000 subscribers on Twitch. By far the best shooter gamer. And you know, you earn amazing money, right? $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 a month, and you just play video games. And you're producing a 5-hour to 10-hour show every day. Please show me anyone in mainstream television that is able to do it by sitting in their bedroom. That's the amazing thing. So Twitch has started with gaming, but Twitch is going to be a new live TV. The donation part is a whole interesting economic model by itself, but I can tell you that some streamers are making very nice money, $1,000 from donations, and that when that adds up to what they make from subscribers, they can make very, very nice income. So if your kid is coming and saying, I want to be esports, I want to be a gamer, esport gamer, or a Twitch streamer, you can say, well, you need to practice, you need to be really good, right? It's not an easy thing, but it is a viable career path, to be honest. And naturally, the question is, what's next? And Twitch, the NFL, I mean, what happens is that all these incumbent sports and whatever other things on TV understand that if they're not going to be there, they're going to lose this audience. So NFL has started to do a couple of things on Twitch. They also now they go also to TikTok. They have a big problem, the NFL. On the outside, it looks like it's the biggest thing, but that's what happens with the regular TV. If you're gonna take the sports, if you're gonna cut the sports from TV, that's it. TV industry is dead completely. It's over. And so they're really afraid. And also the NBA, which is still fairly on a good status, I mean, in United States. So that's probably the next thing, like other sports and maybe other kind of types of broadcast, just finding their way to Twitch. It's not going to be easy, but it is definitely something you should think about. So that's a very fascinating world, and I can go over and over, but it's too technical, and without showing it, it will feel a bit awkward for you, yeah.
So tell me then, how do you actually like market stuff then in Twitch? Because that's something that we also talked about, right? That the streamers are basically also becoming marketing platforms.
Yes, they are becoming an influencer. There's gaming influencer or streamers influencer play now. It's fairly new. I can say I was one of the probably first that managed to do large-scale campaign activations with these people. It is completely different than any other platform because these people are not media horse. It's not, and it's for the good and for the bad. You're not going to get some marketing outcomes from Twitch, but you can get some amazing other outcomes there. If you need clicks, Twitch is not good for you. Instagram could be better. YouTube could be much better. If you need to get awareness for your brand over a long period of time with continuous content and authenticity, nothing will come closer to what a streamer can do. I can even show you an example I did.
Please.
I'll tell you, and then maybe I'll show you later because time. You have questions also. I did a campaign with Trojan. Anybody knows Trojan? That's the Durex of the United States. That's the biggest condom brand in the United States. How are you talking about condoms to Generation Z without making it stupid and irrelevant? You're not going to talk about venereal disease. You're not really going to talk about safe sex. You need to have a fun but relevant enough discussion that happens during the gaming. And then you bring Soda Pop in, who's the most amazing streamer you can attach to this brand. And you know, Soda Pop in over 2 streams, you're talking about 10-hour streams, so 20 hours, managed to create, I think, the most amazing awareness for the brand Trojan. So everybody that watched Soda Poppin knows what Trojan is, what they stand for, and as Soda tried to tell them, he started the stream and he said, I guess everybody here is a virgin. So, you know, breaking the ice with fun and jokes, which are also, you know, real in a way. But now everybody knows that this brand is something that they can relate to. And that goes for cars, and that goes for any consumer brand that wants to connect with this customer base of Generation Z, and also not just kids, but also, you know, older people. In college, Twitch is really big. The streamers, they're going to be the best content creators, but you need to know what kind of content they create and their dynamic. Movies, for example, is a big thing. Maybe you know the movie Iron Sky, right? Finnish guy, you know, okay, you know Timo. So maybe I will help him as well. We need to see. But that's the amazing thing that you can create with them. And there could be other areas. Yes, sorry.
I have a question about the 2 blocks, community and content. Would you say they have to be done on the platform that I'm creating, or could they be outsourced and my content, for example, is on Medium and my community is on Reddit? Is that an option?
You can do it if you're a brand. If you're building a new CPG brand like Allbirds, if you know Atom, Dollar Shave Club, right? All these new CPGs, right? These companies that are creating consumer packaged products only with digital marketing, yes. Then you might better take the you might better use, social media platforms, because you need to build your brand, because you need people to basically prefer your product over Procter & Gamble or Unilever or any of these other horrible incumbents. But if you want to build a marketplace or a commerce that is more than one product, you really want it to be on your platform. You can use these other tools, obviously, to generate traffic. You need to find if there's a play you can, generate with them. But ideally, you really want some strong engagement, user engagement, happening in your platform. I do believe that if you're trying to capture a big commerce category, probably having your own community is better than Reddit, because Reddit is good for finding a lot of shit about and discussion points. But if you want people to discuss gardening and have a really meaningful discussion, of course you want to own it. It's not easy to do it. You will need to work hard, but that's that's the gain ideally that you can get. Also from SEO perspective, there's one example that I didn't include here. Glowing.com. Max Levchin, the guy from ex-PayPal, CEO of a firm, really, really strong guy. That's like the fertility portal. So the product is like an app for fertility. But if you look at the website, crazy forums content about every possible question in fertility and pregnancy that you can have. Fairly created recently, not like 2 years. There were shitloads of other sites covering pregnancy, right? All the magazines. He did it the right way. You take over with SEO. So, and that goes to more tactical things that I don't know if this is the right place, but if you have good experience and people stay on the page, that translates obviously to higher ranking. If you are able to find how to build a community so it will get discovered, so the topics will get discovered, and when people end there, they will actually spend time, then it's much better to do it than to do it on Quora. Why not do it on Quora? People ask everything on Quora. But it's good for general questions, but not like, can you tell me how to grow, I don't know, mint in this garden, or show me how you would do this thing.
I have a question here. So what proportions should you do branding versus marketing versus sales? It's like a funnel. So you brand, you do branding, and then to the people who know your branding, you do marketing, and for the people who've seen your marketing, you're going to sell. So what proportions should you create content on these things?
The question is about this model or in general? What?
In content creation overall in an enterprise.
How would, if I understand the content creation process, how much of it will you allocate to each of the three? That really depends on your goals and what you want to achieve. Not every product can enjoy the benefits of organic content creation and the benefits of original content and the organic traffic it can bring. Some products you can't just create endless content around them. That's why hobby and all these big things, you can create a lot of content because there's a big canvas that you can cover and a lot of viewpoints. So that's the storytelling part, right? You need to understand that you have a big canvas for storytelling. Some products don't have it. If you're talking about sneakers, maybe you can do storytelling, but maybe you can just focus on doing whatever is bringing the most relevant customer to learn about your product and then ideally to shop. So I guess it depends. Again, that's why I answered. If you're focused on one product or one category of products, it might be that doing very, very sophisticated, smart marketing is better for growth. But if you're trying to capture a whole segment, then figuring out, original content could be a great bonus if you see that you can do it. It's not easy. If you ask me personally, like I translate your question to something like this. Now you have a new brand, a new product. Where would you spend your content, or where would you create content? The answer to that is, of course, you need a mix. You need to have different marketing channels, but I would really try to see if there's a way to create as much as organic content on your channels or with influencers or brand ambassadors. And if it works, it works. And if not, then obviously do the smart kind of ads and marketing that is really, that looks like content and people want to, you know, want to consume and want to watch. And that's, in very short, I think the digital marketing challenge everybody has today, because you obviously go to this platform. We discussed it today with a few companies, like how would you do a YouTube campaign? What do you need to do if you do a YouTube campaign? What actual benefits YouTube will give you versus what you get on Instagram and what you can get elsewhere. If marketing is what you really want to do and you love it and you love to dive into the different platforms, there is no better time. Now I sound like Gary Vaynerchuk, sorry for that, but he is right. Aside from all his American bullshit, I know everything. There is no better time right now to really build something if you know how to do and you love to do digital marketing. If you have the skills and you understand and you're methodical and you understand what content works, what creative works, what people like to watch, you like to experiment with it, you know how to build funnels, and then you know how to understand how to do targeting, how to do funnels, how to understand. Today you really have a great way to build builds from scratch, fairly with small budget.
Maybe as a last thing, we discussed previously the topic around growth and how do you actually build it, because we have a lot of people here who are dealing with content and etc. So really, what kind of growth means from a perspective of you and your company, and then also your investors.
Yeah, well, big topic. I will try to not eat your brain too much, but I will share my experience and also what I see from friends and what it made me, what realization I came to. When I started my YouTube network, I had the luck of enjoying crazy growth.
Can I stop you? Can you a little bit like talk about the YouTube network, because that was quite big. Like
I have a whole presentation on that, but it's a bit crazy.
Okay, so just give us the numbers and the whole drill.
I started on YouTube very early, around 2009. That was the heydays, and that was great to start to be a partner, because YouTube was still open and the wave was going up. When you work on a platform, it's always great when you jump when the wave is going up, not when it's on the top. Then it's very crowded, right? It's a red ocean. But when the wave is growing up, not everybody thinks it's going to be big, so not everybody is there. So that's obviously why I always try to go at things when you see that they're going up, but it's not that big yet. So I started just creating channels on YouTube, and funnily enough, I discovered that the channel I started as a joke, which was horror movies, quickly grew up tremendously. And the funny thing is that I produced horror movies, but I don't watch them. I just make them. I don't watch them. That's how I came to know Stan and Maria from Hapsalu Festival. And that's how we connected, through the horror culture, which is an amazing culture because it's creators from all over the world, very creative people.
Great, a very tight community, right?
Very tight community. People are great. They have sense of humor. They're much nicer than filmmakers, which usually irritating douchebags. And I didn't know, but what I've seen is the obvious thing. The amount of search is unbelievable. And that was the thing. So I had the nice advantage that growing on YouTube with search and discovery between 2010 and 2014 was still great. It changed a lot since then. But when I was able to write this thing, it was amazing. So I started just by creating this channel, and very quickly I saw what needs to be done in order to get this thing growing and like basically getting into the 50% growth month over month, right? Which every investor is kind of interested in. And to be honest, the reality was for me, what I did very well is understanding the performance, like understanding what are the factors that are basically generating growth, doing a little bit of reverse engineering, doing what everybody else who's trying to do growth on any platform is trying to do. But in video, at that time, it was fairly new. A lot of people didn't understand a lot of things. But if you know recommender systems and you know a little bit how recommendation works and you have this reverse engineering thinking, you can basically understand any platform. That I can tell you. So it's always good to have this thing. Fast forward, that became the biggest channel for horror. I managed to bring a lot of indie movies to the spotlight, crazy numbers, 23 million views, all organic, everything organic. I never bought anything. The question was, what am I going to do with this thing? I didn't have a plan. The plan was to hang out in Cannes.
It was the typical Israeli plan of doing an exit and having a vacation.
There was a plan. The money was good, I have to tell you. At that time, the money was amazing. And the money was flowing crazy from YouTube. You know, it was, some days it was like unbelievable. But I understood that there has to be an end game, because I already saw back then that the party is going to stop at some point, because it cannot continue like that. And eventually I almost sold it to Vice. It didn't happen. That's another deck, how not to get acquired. But Vice at that point raised shitloads of money and was just looking for everything which is cool rather than young people like. So I can tell a lot about stories about that, because this channel has a very weird, edgy aspect. But let's get back to what we start to talk about. So we got to it through YouTube. So growth is something that when you hear these stories and all your friends are showing it to you, and when you experience it yourself, you kind of feel like, well, that has to be like this. If it's not showing this kind of growth, there's no real product market fit, or the market is not ready, something is not working, the product is not ready, the market is not ready, the experience is not good. It's not a relevant venture. And obviously the investors are all the time communicating it to you. The reality is that the market is not what it used to be. I think in 2008 and before that, and even a few years ago. And nobody is trying to factor this, but there's, marketing is becoming difficult. All kind of viral tricks like I had on YouTube, they don't exist anymore. So a lot of these amazing growth stories that you hear, they might have this little help that you don't know about. Only the person who was doing it knows about. But everybody thinks, well, this is what I should do. But when you go and talk to people, what you hear is that they still get all kind of, figuring out like what exactly we need to do in order to hit the growth. And what you see there is that you do all the right things, but the market still hasn't happened, like in Airbnb, for example. So you're waiting for the change in the market, or you're still in what I call the middle or the late stages of product market fit. And I discussed it with a few companies today, but people tell you, well, once you have product market fit, then the growth and the scale are going to happen. But the reality is not like this. The product market fit is a process. When you begin it, you're basically trying to reach your first clients. In the middle of it, you usually had more than 10 clients, customers that really gave you very valuable input that helps you really understand the tweaks. And at the end of the product market fit, you usually, or you're supposed to be with 15 or 20 or more clients that you understand exactly their journey, their success and failure points, and the sales cycle. And then you know how the growth will look like. And that's a much more realistic, especially in SaaS, and because software is eating the world everywhere today. So now, again, the game is becoming a little bit harder. And here is another model that I can suggest as an analogy, but it's much more the truth. It's like serving food, right? You are basically coming with your cake, your new dish, your amazing new concept, and you're trying to serve it to people. Hey, taste my food. Not everybody is going to take it. Yes, sure, I'm taking everything, I'm gonna eat it. It doesn't work like this. People are like, oh, let me try, take a little bite. Okay, interesting. I try more. I don't like it. This is not what I like. So what you're really doing in the early stages, you're just going with this nice plate and you're telling people, hey, you wanna bite this guy, or they took a bite. Look, they liked it, and you're really trying to get a lot of people take these small bites, and very rarely you will get to the case that somebody is like, oh, amazing, that's the food I was waiting for. Give me this and more and more and more. The reality is that doesn't happen in most of the cases. Actually, it very rarely happens. And if you look at the stories of many successful startups, that are very celebrated in the news, and they're like the, you know, the lighthouse model. They experience the same thing. But it does happen that sometimes the product is so fundamentally, you know, groundbreaking that this does happen. But why am I saying this? Because the investors always communicating for you, yeah, we're not interested in 20% month over month. It's not what we want. We want to invest in everything that is like 40 or more % month over month growth, and I don't know, 2 years, 5 year cycle, here's where you're gonna be. And of course it's great, this is what you should aim yourself for, but in the reality, you cannot really be there unless you've already had some extended customer development while your product is already out. So not all products can really hit this thing. And I think my suggestion is also to be able to stand in front of the investors and be able to answer and tell them, yeah, I understand. I know that this is what I want to get. Here is how I think I will get there. So it's not to tell them, no, that's not what's going to happen, because obviously you don't want to reject them, but at least to be able to debate and stand and kind of have counter arguments when this argument is landing on your head, because it's usually very stressful. Where is the growth? It's not for, you know, we don't see it, we're not getting it. But wait, okay, I understand. Here's what I realized. Here's how I think I'm gonna be there. If you wanna invest later, okay, but you know, I think we have at least nice signals now. You will see that some investors, but not just some, many of them would be interested to actually understand what you have to say, because you know the truth, they don't know the market. You know, because you're trying to build in this market. They don't know. Sometimes they do know, because they have previous experience, but in most cases, they don't know. They're trying to find the best possible signals that for them would show that this thing can have X returns, multiple X returns. So that's the easiest thing, is to throw it on you. Well, until you hit this kind of growth, it's not relevant. And like Stan said, the negative part is that drives a lot of startups and CEOs when they're still in an early stage to do wrong things and to allocate the attention and to also create stress in the company and also to damage the product and to just kind of, with good, they have good intention, but it leads them in a wrong place. So you definitely need to know your market, and you definitely need to understand all these factors, sales cycle, everything. But it makes sense that you will have a little bit of a slower growth, as long as you're able to explain and show that you know what happens. So that's my little experience on that. And by the way, there's a lot of cases of hyper growth that end up in fucking bubble that is going to blow. We work, okay, amazing valuation. Nobody knows where is this thing going. So the hyper growth narrative is also a false narrative in many cases. Like you need to, do the reality check and consider and look at it yourself and ask yourself, is this a cool aid or what do I understand? But it's your responsibility, obviously, to know your market and know, what kind of dynamics it has.
Last question. I always ask it. What's been your biggest startup failure, and what did you learn from it?
My personal?
Yes.
Oh. Well, I can't say it was mine, but that was my first startup when I was 17 in '97. The heydays of Web 1, of the beginning of the internet. I miss these days sometimes.
Don't tell me that Yossi Vardi was the investor.
No, Yossi wasn't the investor. I don't know, maybe you don't know it. Before Google, there was banner exchange. There was a lot of advertising happened through what's called banner exchange. I'm hosting your banner on my site, and you're gonna host my banners on your site, and then I can expand it and with paid. It was a big thing because in 96, 97, 98, that the internet was this, right? You had GeoCities, you had all these kind of websites.
Alta Vista.
And the biggest edtech company for banner exchange was Link Exchange, United States, which was founded by the guy who founded Zappos, Tony Hsieh. And in Haifa, in Israel, I joined a startup in a very early stage that created the second biggest player, which was called HyperBanner, which was the biggest outside the United States in Europe. And that was before Google, right? So nobody really knew what's going to happen. The failure thing is an amazing story of momentum, and it goes also to my story with the Vice thing. Like, momentum is really important when you're handling the exit situation. HyperBanner was the second biggest and was known but under the radar. But then Microsoft bought Link Exchange, which was a big deal then. I don't know, $250 million. And that drove immediately all the other players like Excite and Infospace and Yahoo and Lycos and AOL to see who's the other one. And of course, it was us. So then we started to have these delegations of these American executives coming to the small apartment in Haifa and talking to us. And I was in charge of our product for animated banners. Before Flash, we used Java. We called it Janimation because at those days Java was like, wow, look what you can do with Java. And Macromedia was a very new like a new company that just started. So I had to explain them, this is the future of advertising, look. And it was all going towards an acquisition. But then people said, no, we're going to do an IPO. And then year 2000 came. And that's what happened, if you know what happened in year 2000, right? The big dot-com bust. Like, everybody that didn't do anything before January was fucked. Like, I was in the army at that time, but it was just a complete shutdown of everything around consumer web. And that was like the biggest miss, because that could be an amazing situation. And I don't know what's the lesson. I don't know, yeah.
Don't do an IPO.
Yeah, I mean you cannot predict these things, but at that time it looked like the smartest thing to do. And a lot of other companies actually had the same fate. They completely got smacked. And yeah, I don't know. If you're in a situation where you're the second biggest player, you're the second player in the market, and somebody buys the first player, I guess you should really try to max out on acquisition, because a lot of people are going to come, and you should find a way to get acquired. Yeah. I'm never letting this happen to me again. Yeah, in case I'm able to get.
Cool. Thank you so much, Uri. Thank you so much for coming. And our next meetup will be on 25th of September, where we have Justin Diamond coming from Singapore and talking about media tech in Southeast Asia and also their investment funds. Thanks very much.